What is a good, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the LearnWell Podcast. I'm your host, Ruben Stephen, a current junior at MIT studying mechanical engineering and computer science. And when I'm not doing that, I'm also creating content at rsteven.04. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with
Tobi. My name is Tobi Majekodunmi. I am a third year PhD student in mechanical engineering at MIT. And when I'm not doing that, I also make content on the side. I like to post about, all things helping people get into grad school, helping people get where I am, learning, all those things. And my at is toby.phd.
Yes, Sirski. And yeah, speaking of that PhD, we were like talking like on the way up the elevator
Oof.
that you just finished with Quals. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like the general question is, I guess, like what does your day-to-day look like?
yeah.
But I guess like how has that been affected by Quals, and then how does it change on the other
Yeah.
side of them?
Sheesh. Okay. I mean, like, I'll just say, starting off, like, quals generally, like, what does that even mean for a
Mm,
PhD student? Like, basically, all PhD programs have qualifying exams in one
mm,
way or the other. It's how you go from being what they call a PhD student to a PhD candidate.
um,
Um, and basically, like, traditionally, like, historically, like, if you didn't pass your quals, you would be kicked from the department. MechE has a similar thing where, like, you get two takes at it, and if you don't pass, you have to leave with your masters.
mm,
Um, so those are like that generally, like, that's what quals is, and it's like different departments do it differently, different institutions do it differently. MIT MechE quals are notoriously the worst over here. So yeah, like it was intense. It was intense. Basically, like the department culture is that
mm,
we take like an entire semester to
mm,
study. So like most of my fall, most of my IAP, I was prepping for that. I only went home for a week for winter
mm,
break because I
dang.
came back, I had to get some experiments done, I had to lock in, so on and so forth. Um, but now that I'm on the other side of it,
Yeah.
life has been good. Like I've just been chilling for the last week to celebrate, but like, moving forward, generally like people say that life after quals is easier.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to like I mean, one, like it's a huge exam. It's very stressful, blah 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 blah.
Mm,
But I think the main thing is like it just changes how you think, how you do research, how you attack different problems. Like as I was going through the quals process, I was like
mm,
I was able to learn things and think about things in a way that was directly impacting the research that I was doing.
mm,
It just helps you. Basically, it's the process of becoming an expert.
yeah.
So I feel like having gone through that, my work is going to be easier. I'm going to be more confident in my speaking abilities and in the
Mm,
way that I communicate. Like part of the qualifying exam, like basically you have three subject exams
mm,
on like topics that you can choose. I chose thermodynamics, heat transfer, and product design. And
gotcha.
then you've got one research exam that's like you're giving a presentation in front of a group of professors. And having given that, having gone through the research exam portion, I'm like, okay, if I can effectively communicate some of the hardest stuff known to mankind, like I can communicate anything.
Mm,
Um, so I'm excited. I'm excited for life post quals. Prior to quals, like right now, like I'm kind of in the process of wrapping up my master's thesis.
mm,
MECI allows you to get your master's before you get your PhD, but you have to submit like a 50-page document that details, your work for the past 2 to 3 years. So that's what I'm about to do. That's what I'm about to wrap up some experiments.
mm,
Um, yeah, and then like after that, I'll be moving on to the PhD. Moving on to the PhD. I'm planning on switching advisors for my PhD. Some people stay in the same lab, but you know,
mm,
I'm I'm gonna be moving to a different lab and like looking to do some more of my own like pioneering work.
gotcha.
Um, Looking to do some interesting projects that I have planned that'll directly translate to the work that I'm doing after my PhD. So
Got you. So I guess I have a couple of questions from that. The
yeah,
first of which being, I think it sounded like, so you're doing experimentation and like working on the
yeah,
thesis at the same time as like
yeah,
preparing for the qualifying exam.
yeah,
Sheesh.
yeah,
And then I guess like, oh yeah, more specifically, like what is that experimentation you're doing? And I think
yeah,
it kind of connects to like which lab were you in?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was doing. I mean, so my goal was to wrap up experiments, the master's thesis, all that before quals,
Mm.
but that's not how things went. Um, and I mean, like, yeah, just had to get comfortable with being okay, like, with the timeline not going exactly as I desired. But in terms of like the actual work that I do, basically, like, I mean, my specific research is experiments. There's people that do like a lot of theory-based stuff and like simulations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm primarily doing experiments on a day-to-day basis or like designing things. Like my work is in what we call, or it's in the atomistic simulation and energy research group.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is to develop clean energy technologies um, to help the world transition to a clean energy society, ultimately mitigating the effects of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that I do specifically, we have this energy storage device that takes electricity, converts it into heat, and then converts it back into electricity. And I'm concerned about that process of going from heat to electricity. And the
Mm.
way that we do that is using these devices that work very similarly to solar cells. They're called thermal photovoltaics.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they just use the photoelectric effect to convert heat into electricity.
And so like I guess like in a regular photoelectric voltaic cell,
Yeah,
it's like using, I guess, is it just like a different part of the light spectrum?
exactly.
Got
Exactly.
you.
It's the infrared part of the
Mm.
electromagnetic spectrum. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. I My bad. I'm like nerding out. So
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
okay.
no, no.
I'm like, okay. So how do you extract energy given that you have like a lower frequency, like, because yeah, it's literally just like a lower frequency source. Like, I
Mm-hmm,
guess what
mm-hmm.
are the like? How do you
Yeah,
step
yeah,
that back up to being like a high? I guess like yeah. What is the target like? I guess voltage and amperage you're trying to get to or
yeah.
stuff like that.
Very good questions. Very good questions. So let's start with a basic comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Solar cells, one of the, I mentioned there's solar cells, photovoltaics, and then we call them TPVs, thermal photovoltaics.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the great things about these thermal photovoltaics is that the the view factor between in this case we'll call it the sun,
Mm-hmm.
and the device is much higher, which is to say that you can put the whatever is outputting your energy right next to the cell. But in the case of the sun, like you can imagine, the sun is 90 million miles away.
Yeah.
So the view factor is much lower. Like you've got to jump through a lot of more hoops to try and get a sufficient amount of energy. And basically, like you're trying to convert more parts of the electromagnetic spectrum because the the sun is, give or take, I believe, like 6,000 degrees Celsius,
Mm-hmm.
um, which has very high frequency. The dominant modes of
Mm-hmm.
light that it's emitting are very high frequency, but because it's super far away and because the Earth's atmosphere acts like a filter,
Yeah.
you actually end up with a completely different spectrum of light that's hitting the solar cells. But
Mm-hmm.
in the case of these thermal photovoltaics, you can, if you want to, dominate your power densities in the infrared spectrum, you
Mm-hmm.
basically just heat up your object to super high temperatures, like 2,000 degrees Celsius, and now your dominant wavelengths are going to be in the infrared spectrum, and you can tune the device, the semiconductor, you can tune its properties so that it's focusing its energy conversion on
On that
those.
spectrum.
Exactly.
That's so dope. I guess how do you go about tuning a semiconductor?
So the tuning process itself
Uh-huh.
is the tuning process itself is it takes doping,
Okay.
which is, let's say I'm just going to use silicon because
That's how they make like
solar.
transistors, for example.
Exactly. And you would dope them with some either boron or some other material to tune its specific properties. Now, in the thermal photovoltaic space, we do something similar. You use other semiconductor materials, and basically what you try to do is you'll tune it so that I'm gonna throw out some jargon,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna break it down.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna break it down. You tune it so that the energy, the photons that are hitting the thermal photovoltaic have a higher, the photons themselves will have a higher energy density than the band gap of the cell. Now, what that basically means is that these semiconductors have a band gap where any photons at an energy higher, whether it be let's say any photons that have a higher energy are going to be converted into electricity.
Okay.
Now, the band gap tells you where exactly on the electromagnetic spectrum that
threshold goes.
Exactly. So, there are a lot of different materials that you can work with. Our specific thermal photovoltaics, I believe, are indium gallium arsenide based, and their band gaps are tuned. Their band gaps are tuned to actually two energies. I won't get too into the details there, but they're tuned to two energies such that you're converting most of the photons above that energy threshold.
Got you.
Was that cohesive?
I think like what it reminded me of, I'm thinking of like a class I took called 6200, and it wasn't like a signal processing class exactly, but we worked with like band filters.
Exactly.
And so it's like literally like that same. It's like, okay, it's like, okay, you have this like set point, and it's like if you like alter it on the, I forget exactly what it is. Like you had like in our case, it was like, okay, we're working with inductors and capacitors, and it's like the inductance and capacitance, as you alter those, alters where that like line goes.
Exactly. And one of the cool things about these devices, like I said, we call it the emitter. In the case of solar, that would be the sun. The sun is your emitter. But in the case of these devices, you put some object next to it that gets really, really hot, above 2000 degrees C. The emitter in this case, because it's so close to the device, you can actually place a mirror on the backside of the device that reflects any unused photons back to the emitter, which essentially recycles them and heats the emitter back up. So you can get much higher efficiencies that would otherwise be possible.
I was gonna say, is that like near double, or there's like probably like additional decay, but like that's crazy.
Yeah. Efficiencies are, there's been a lot of work in the field to get the efficiencies higher to improve the reflectivity of the mirror, blah, 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 blah. But efficiencies can be higher than 50%, 60, 70%.
I guess like, what is that relative to like a normal photovoltaic cell?
Photovoltaics, the baseline that you typically see on like a building or whatever, those typically operate around like 30, 40%.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of potential in this space.
Yeah. And then I guess like going back to, I guess like the process of the PhD, you mentioned like you're thinking about switching labs from this one to a different one. I guess like what motivated the switch?
Yeah. So that's low-key a long story. Basically like it started my first year coming into grad school. I had come in knowing that I wanted to work on clean energy technology. And basically like, a large part of my grad application process was applying to fellowships that would pay for my education, because my professor, the guy that I wanted to work with, he was like, hey man, I don't have any money. Like you got to bring your own money if you want to work in my lab. So I applied for fellowships. I won them. And one of the ones that I won was the GEM Fellowship.
GEM Consortium. I love those people.
Exactly.
Shout out them.
Exactly. Shout out GEM. Shout out GEM. And the funny thing about their process is like basically they hook you up with like an internship with a company, and that company pays for a year of your graduate education. Um, and typically like when you when you know like when you apply for the program, you submit a list of companies that you want to work for. So my list was like folks in the clean energy space, like NREL, National Renewable Energy Laboratory, I think another laboratory, and like Tesla. And I wanted to work with them, but I found out that before my application even got sent out to those folks, they had like this little, I don't know, like exclusive meeting where like they brought in some of their top hitters, people that they sponsors in the program, and they asked them to like choose from a pool of students that they were interested in. So before my application even went out to the companies that I wanted to go to, MIT Lincoln Laboratory saw my application and they were like, we want him.
Yeah.
So they pulled me out, and I was like, they hit me up, they asked for interviews, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I don't really want to work for these guys. But low-key, like, I don't know if denying them means that I'll deny like the entire fellowship money.
Yeah.
So I just decided to go with it. Ended up being a major blessing because it was like only a 6-week internship. And that was like my summer going from senior year to grad school. So I was able to chill for the most of the summer.
Yeah.
And like, just make good money and vibe. But the actual project showed me like day to day showing up in an engineering facility, doing engineering work on like stuff that I had no desire to do. I was like, I can't actually do this for the rest of my life. Like I can't like just be doing engineering stuff.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis. Like I need my work to more directly interface with people.
Yeah.
And have more of a direct, tangible impact on people on a day-to-day basis. So from there, I was like, okay, like I still want to stay in the climate space. I want to help the world, like mitigate climate change. Like that's the biggest problem of our generation.
Agreed.
And like I started thinking, okay, like what do we need? If I say I want to attack this in a social way, like what does that look like? What do we need? So I started thinking like, okay, like climate itself in the US isn't even just a technological issue. It's a social issue. Like we make progress as a nation for like 4 years, and then the next 4 we're moving back.
Yeah.
And we've politicized this thing so heavily in a way that it doesn't have to be. So I'm like, okay, like how do we fix this? How do we address this? It's an economic issue. How do we disclose and communicate the economics in such a way so that people know that this is you can't even deny the facts behind this. This is economically not justified. What are the economic portions? What are the political portions? Like I started reading books and like thinking about, okay, like how do we address this from a political issue? How have we even gotten to the point where climate is so politicized? Like little deep dive. But like there's been a lot of work by big oil to politicize an issue that originally like Democrats and Republicans were both on the same side about. There's been like a lot of money that's been put out to, like miscommunicate all these different things. So like how politically, like how do we address those things? And then like those also just from my point, like how do I improve my communication skills to be a type of a spokesperson for this space, for this social space? And looking at all those things, I was like, okay, what degree do I need? What skills do I need? What do I need to how can I grow to be able to become the person who's able to address all these different issues from all these different lenses? For some time I was thinking about leaving MechE and like doing other degrees, poli-sci, law, blah, blah, blah. But through an internship, I found out through another internship actually, where I was doing work, in like the greater Boston area to help underserved communities. I realized that a lot of people deeply appreciate the engineering skill set and like the problem solving that we bring, but they don't actually have direct access to it. So I realized that in a lot of these social spaces, like they could benefit greatly from having someone who's literally trained themselves in problem solving in that space.
Yeah.
So I decided to continue pursuing MechE, continue going down that path, like that's why I went through Quals so that I could become qualified to address these problems.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, now I'm thinking about the clean energy transition from a global perspective. Because one of the issues that I found is that, while the technology might exist in the US, there's this expectation, and really, like, in my opinion, a false belief that, the technology will just trickle down to all the other countries. Developing countries like those in South America and Asia and Africa. And one of the problems with that is that the US has benefited greatly from the Industrial Revolution, from oil, from gas, from all this stuff. And now we just want to look at the rest of the world and say, like, hey, y'all can't
Stop. Nah.
yeah, it's chill.
That's
like,
not nice. It's like, all right, bro.
It's crazy. So I'm like, okay, how do we address this? How do we fix this? And now the route that I want to go through with that is to look at how we design clean energy technologies for these developing nations.
Yeah.
So that's the next step of what I'm looking to do in my PhD work, moving from energy storage systems, which I actually didn't even give context to before, but yeah, that's the general scope of the work that I'm currently doing. Moving from there to looking at how we transition to clean energy globally.
And so I guess with that transition, is the lab that you're switching to more, I guess, involved on that social political side as well, or are they just focused on a different technical subsection?
So I don't actually have a specific lab that I'm moving to right now. One thing that I found is while this work is really important to me, while I want to do this, there's actually not a lot of people who are thinking in the same ways, who are doing this work, at least here at MIT. So I've kind of had to pave my own path of what this looks like. The way that I see it going, one of the great things about the fellowship funding that I have is that, the money follows me.
Got you.
So I'm not really bound to any specific professors to work with. My current plan is actually to basically have a professor who's done some work in the global development space.
Yeah.
Be under him, and then work with some folks outside of MIT who have been thinking about clean energy in the global space, and specifically in Africa, and sort of carve out my own project that allows me to do a lot of the preliminary work for what I see myself doing in the future, which is, potentially like a startup or a consulting gig that is doing that clean energy work globally and developing those systems. So the way that I see my PhD going is, okay, I'll do a feasibility study early on to see which nations are the best suited for the type of work that I'm trying to do, based on their political status. I mean, bro, there's so much that goes
into that, bro.
Exactly. Based on their policies, based on their economic status, based on, just how people interact in in the nation, in the communities. So I'm actually really excited. I'm really excited. And I'm really, one of the parts that I'm really excited about is involving the community in the design of the systems that we're looking to build, because particularly in the US, there has been a history of injustice that's been perpetuated through the development of energy and how we produce it, how we sell it, how we market it, all these different things.
And how we distribute it as well.
How we distribute it. And certain communities like ours have seen the back end of the stick.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in, cutting all that out from the get-go and just going straight to the community and starting with them, working with them as if they were, not even as if, but working with them as experts in their own life and well-being, and
local
how
ecosystem.
Exactly.
They're the ones who can give you the most up-to-date data, because
Exactly.
I actually live here.
literally. So I'm really excited to be able to directly work with communities and see what makes the most sense, what the future looks like.
Gotcha. Huh. I have no idea, I guess, like what their organization or structure looks like from the other side because I'm taking a class with them. But
Mm.
there's the D Lab
Yeah,
at
yeah,
MIT,
yeah, yeah.
and it's like I'm taking a class right now called D Lab Design. Like for
Okay,
that, it's like
okay.
honestly,
Is it the energy class or is it a different one?
I'm taking just like the more
Okay,
general
okay,
class, but I
okay,
definitely want to take that one of the energy
okay.
ones
Yeah,
like next year or something
yeah,
like that. But like very much on similar timing to like what you mentioned of like how
yeah,
can I use these like this education and like this resource that is like being at MIT in order to like funnel it back towards like communities I care about and like I don't know like we got the
yeah,
Haitian
yeah,
flag in the
yeah,
background. You feel me? And like
yeah.
something that like really stood out that like I don't know I've really had to been like I had to internalize more and more is that this is
Mm,
a multi-dimensional problem. It's not like one
yeah,
size fits all. And
yeah,
like especially as it relates to like energy and like the deployment of said energy, like
yeah,
the realization and understanding that you have to somewhat get involved with the politics because it's the government that is going to deploy that. And like
yeah,
with Haiti in particular, like their government is kind of in a
yeah,
state of unrest, and so it's like you can't
yeah.
even really send aid because it's gonna get embezzled, bro.
Exactly, exactly.
And I guess I kind of wanted to take that and like transition a bit to like your background and I guess like how
Hmm.
that plays into like your motivations with like
Yeah,
your career.
yeah. So I am Nigerian American.
Yes, sir.
Both of my parents immigrated from Nigeria, and yeah, like have made a life here in the U.S.
Mm.
And you know that I mean, you relate to. I'm sure you relate to this a lot too.
Yeah.
Like being the child of immigrants puts you in a very interesting space.
Mm.
Um, being like having ties to that country, but also being perceived as black in the
Yeah.
U.S. and being like growing up with a black experience here in the U.S.
Hmm.
Um, so it's been very interesting for me to think about like how does this how do the histories of injustice experienced on both sides impact the work that I'm looking to do.
Absolutely.
Um, I mean, like it's become a very important part, a very integral part of the work that I'm looking to do, tackling injustice. Um, and I mean, man, like I can't. I feel like I could go so many different directions
Mm.
about this. Um, but on one side, like let's start with the Nigerian side.
Yeah.
Um, Nigeria was colonized by the British. I mean, obviously, like full they that was after before it's like they raided West Africa for slaves and distributed them through the Atlantic slave trade. And particularly in Nigeria, like we're in this state where the country is just in shambles.
Mm.
Um, the government can't be trusted. There's so much corruption, which is like gets into the policy, the work that I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Like, how do we actually integrate these things? Because you can't go through the government.
Because like yeah, bro, it's actually crazy how like the parallels. It's just like
Yeah,
the English in Nigeria and then
yeah,
France and Haiti,
yo,
bro.
yo, yo, bro. So I'm like, one of the reasons why I'm so interested in attacking this from a global perspective in just in the PhD is
Mm.
because we have to be very delicate about how we integrate these solutions. Um, I'm not even sure if one of the reasons why I want to study so many countries
Mhm.
from the get-go is because I'm not sure that Nigeria would be the best place to try and integrate this
To
off rip
start, yeah.
because like we said, there's corruption, there's all these different things. You have to be very intentional about how you integrate these solutions into the community. Maybe you need to go completely around the government and start with grassroots type of things that'll, start from the community and be brought up that way. I'm not quite sure what the ideal solution looks like just yet,
Yeah.
but that's one of the reasons why I want to study multiple cases and see like, okay, what does it look like when we do this in East Africa? What does this look like when we do this in South America and all these different spots so that we can think about integrating it into society? And then like, I mean, just in, uh, we can get into this
Hmm.
more or not, but I even think about like, you know, the US and
Yeah.
the experience of Black folk over here. Um, Although the experience was not that of my ancestors,
Hmm.
I saw this in a book, like, or I read this in a book,
Hmm.
like these were the brothers and sisters of my ancestors.
Yeah.
So as much as it is their experience, like it still hits home for me, and it's not an injustice that I can just turn away from. I think,
Yeah.
especially as a person of privilege
Mhm.
at MIT, you know, I have all the more responsibility to contribute,
Yeah.
contribute to the solution. And I mean, like everything we're talking about, bro, is not one dimensional. It's not cookie cutter. It's not simple. So that, you know, ties into like the social media work that I do, the STEM outreach work that I do, and then I'm trying to do in the community, in the greater Boston community, to bring resources to communities that don't have it. How I think about environmental injustice and how it's been perpetuated in the US, thinking about how I equip myself to address those issues um, long term. How, you know, as one of the things that I believe is, you know, like as you're creating value for people, like you'll make money off of that.
Literally.
So as I'm positioning myself to be a person of influence, you know, like how do I make sure that I'm still educating myself and staying up to date with the struggles of others so that I know how to best support as I'm moving on up, whether it's through STEM outreach, whether it's with being involved with this organization, whether it is through, you know, like different initiatives and things that I pursue. So I all that to say, like I see my culture, my heritage is a major part of the work that I do, and I mean, yeah, bro, like the career that I'm looking to have, the impact that I'm looking to have, and it plays out in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. I guess like something that had caught in my head was, I guess you mentioned like the line you mentioned about like these are the brothers and sisters of my ancestors.
Yeah.
And like I think I don't know, like I'll just speak for like myself and
Yeah,
like my
yeah,
upbringing in particular,
yeah,
but I remember like there was a level of disconnection that I think my mom, like having grown up in
yeah,
Haiti and like where it's like these
yeah.
aren't my people for real. And like I
Mm,
personally I think I, I don't want to misuse the term, but I would describe myself as like a Pan-Africanist of like I
mm,
see us all as connected. And it's
yeah, yeah,
like you mentioned, like it don't matter if I'm not generationally African American. When that cop
yeah.
sees me, he don't care.
Literally, literally.
And I don't know. I think like our generation is a bit better about it, but
Yeah,
like it just hurts my soul that like we find so many different ways to like draw distinctions in between ourselves when it's like,
yeah,
bro, there's and even between I think the lines aren't just about like even black people to like Hispanic people, like the plight of like what the ICE
literally.
raids are going on, like bro, that's
Yeah,
us too. I
yeah,
don't care,
yeah,
bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because at the end of the day, like it's not us versus them, but it's like they don't care too much about the specifics. And
facts.
if anything, like in my opinion, I think it's more so like socioeconomic lines than it is like race.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree 100%. And
Mm.
I mean, my focal point, like
Mm.
my center, I mean, just because I think that that's one of the issues that I've best equipped myself to address is
Oh,
climate and environmental injustice and all those different things. But I mean, my heart is just with injustice in
yeah.
general, with the impacts of slavery, colonialism, and the empire, bro. Like as it stands today, like all the different ways that we see that. My best friend is like Afro Venezuelan, and
Oh,
he's taught me so much um, about like the the experience and how much our experiences
yeah.
resemble one
Yeah.
another. And I mean, like yeah, bro. Like when I talk about like becoming a person of influence, like
Mm.
low key, I'm stacking up. I'm in my brain. I'm like I'm remembering this stuff, bro. Like the
Yeah.
stuff that I see with ICE, bro. Like I'm remembering this stuff. The type of injustice that we see related to, I mean, all things surrounding the empire. Like I remember this. I'm remembering this for the day when I'm able to be a voice in the room, to leverage the influence that I have to have an impact while still putting myself in a position on the day-to-day basis to, you know, like
Be able to do so.
to do the work.
There's okay, like I don't even know exactly how to frame this or
Yeah.
like touch this, but like there's that tension that like I've been thinking about. Like I remember I was chewing on this very heavily at
Mm,
the beginning of this semester as well. But it's like Okay. One part of it is like generalist versus specialist, and I guess like coming to terms, because like you mentioned like, oh, this is the way that I've best equipped myself to be able to contribute. And one tension is like wanting to be able to do more and or get involved in all of these. And I feel like the PhD process in particular is like, okay, I am specializing. And I'm wondering just like how, like, what are your thoughts? Or I guess like, yeah, like how do you cope with the fact that you can't do it all?
Sheesh. I mean, it's a good question. How do I cope? How do I cope? How do I cope? I would say like one of the things that I do, generally the way that I look at it is like everybody's got their different functions, their different purpose to accomplish. I simply will not be able to do everything. One of the, a very like poignant example for me that I remember is like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago or so, as I was continuing to understand like educational inequality in the U.S. And how it plays into like the types of education that we see for across different communities today, I became interested in STEM outreach because that was what I did. But a lot of my friends who are in the arts and humanities space started to teach me about like STEM, which is just science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and the importance of like arts and artistic expression and all that stuff. And that really like I really appreciated that. I began to see the importance of it in a way that I hadn't prior. And because of that, I was like becoming invested in, okay, like how do I contribute into this space? How do I develop myself artistically to be able to contribute in these spaces? And I just realized, like, as I was investing time and energy to, like, okay, like, do I want to learn the piano? Like, do I want to, study all these different things? I was like, the time that I would spend getting to a point that some of my friends were at would be not time wasted, but time better spent just operating in some of the things that came more naturally to me. And because of that, it's like, okay, if my friends already at a certain place in this field, in this area, already has certain capabilities, I decided that my responsibility is to stay connected with them, stay close to them, and support them to the best degree that I can in their endeavors so that we can both be up doing our own separate things, supporting each other, I'm only 24 now, but like, like once I start getting up there and start being able to wield that influence, like being able to open doors for them, being able to send grants, send money to them, like all those different things. So all that to say, I've realized that I can't do everything. I can't do everything. But I mean, even as much as I'm, you could call a PhD a specialization, I'm still very much interested in being multifaceted. So, like I talked about being aware politically, socially, in my communication, in all these different areas, making sure that I myself am well read so that I can hang in these spaces where I might not have expertise, but I can at least know enough to have a competent conversation with somebody, at least know enough about where I should be advocating and so on and so forth. So, I would say that that's been my approach to things. Not necessarily investing my time in every single thing that I could, but being top on the things that I can while also being informed on a lot of things.
And something that you mentioned that like really stuck out to me was like, in my head, like the word that stuck out was like, oh, that sounds like village mentality of like, okay, we have a baker already, or like, I know like he's cooking, like I don't have to become a baker as well. Like, how about I learn to go hunt? And so now we have sandwiches or something.
Let them cook.
Like, you feel me?
Yeah.
And then also, and this is like kind of tangent, but I'm interested, like you mentioned, like making sure that you're well read And
Mm.
I'm wondering like how you go about doing that.
Mm.
Both, I guess, like, yeah, from like multiple perspectives. So like one, there's like STEM, how do you educate yourself versus like humanities,
Mm.
and then there's also like content and like what is it that you're like choosing to go read, and then tactics of like, okay, how do you actually get it into your brain?
Yeah.
So I guess there's lucky like 4 questions in my mind.
No, good questions though. Good questions though. Good questions though. So, man, like as far as STEM goes,
Mm,
I would say the way that I kind of attack that is reading to understand.
mm,
Um, I'll dial it down to the work that I do on a day-to-day basis with the thermal photovoltaics.
yeah.
You know, like my general scope of work is energy storage, but I've had to become an expert in semiconductors and photovoltaic research to
Mm-hmm.
be able to actually contribute to this field. So, you know, like in that space is like reading papers, being up to date on the field. Like, bro, I feel it's funny because I mean, I feel like when I started out in undergrad, I chose engineering. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but part of it was like I don't want to read the way that they do in like law and do all that stuff, or like in the humanities,
Yeah.
bro. Like I read so much. I read every single day. I read so much to understand what's been done in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether it's textbook, whether it's papers, all these different things to be able to understand and be able to contribute. So there, I would say like STEM wise depending on the issue that you're trying to solve, there's going to be a background of knowledge that people have contributed, that people have studied and produced, that you're going to have to dive back on to be able to understand, okay, like what are the gaps and what have people tried to solve this problem? How can I apply my own engineering expertise to solve this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And so on and so forth. So that's how I would say I attack STEM nowadays. I mean, even for quals, bro, like I was all up in them textbooks, bro. All up in them textbooks, prepping. Um, Generally though, how I stay well read. I mean, part of it is like on the one hand, right? Like when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about having an impact in, let's say, environmental injustice or economics or policy, you know, as an outsider to those spaces, I might not necessarily know what to actually study,
Mm-hmm.
what I should be reading, as much as an expert in that space would. So one of the ways that I stay well read is by taking classes in those
Mm-hmm.
spaces. I've taken a lot of classes in DUS, the Department
Yeah.
of Urban Studies and Planning, and I love what they do over there.
Shout out then. Shout out course 11, man.
Bro, they're killing it. They're killing it. Those are probably my favorite classes.
Have you ever met Will Jones?
The name is familiar, but I don't know if we've talked.
Yeah, he like just he like just finished up
Okay.
his PhD in the DUS program.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't know. He's an
Yeah.
immaculate individual, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. He's
Bet.
working, I believe it's called Cloudburst NYC. I something with the
Mm.
cloud in it, but like very not like again like different angle. And it's again like
Yeah.
you have the different operators in the village and like what people are focusing on
Mm.
to but it's like working toward that same I think like goal.
Mhm.
Shout out Will. I need to reach out
Shout
to
out. Well, I gotta
him.
tap in with bro too. Um, but yeah, like I've taken a lot of DUS classes, staying well read there. Economics, blah blah blah. So one is like taking classes. I would say generally like particularly when it comes to like learning about struggles and experiences that I myself haven't had.
Hmm.
That's one place that I love to read about. So recently, like I've been reading a lot of Nigerian literature. Although I'm Nigerian American, like I mean, there's a lot that I haven't experienced.
Yeah.
So I've been reading recommended things like I think it's shoot, I'm blanking on the name right now, but one of the books is like Arrow of God by I'm a butcher the name. It's this Igbo guy, or from the Igbo tribe. But reading a lot of literature there to learn about experiences that are not my own. Similarly, on the black side, like reading things like The Color of Law,
Mm.
um, other books as well. Like one set of experiences that I
Mm.
really enjoy reading about, that I'm intentional to read about, is like those of Black women,
Mm.
because they are I can't remember how they put it, but it's like they're a double minority,
Yeah.
being Black and also a woman. So they've got the worst of it all. And because that experience is my own, okay, like how do I position myself to be able to advocate for my sisters and understand the struggles that they go through? So that's like generally kind of how I attack staying well read about people's experiences so that I'm able, I mean, so that I don't try to come in like a savior who like knows everything and assumes that I have all the issues. Like my place is really to understand and to help empower people to find solutions. So using my skill set to enhance whatever it is they're trying to do. And then otherwise, you know, like books on communication, books on, I mean, a lot of different things. Like in terms of content creation, like there's, you can't talk about something, or rather you can't teach something until you truly understand it. So the things that I talk about regarding like studying, I read up on books for those to be able to actually give people substantial information. Things that I've practiced and that I might know conceptually, but it's just helpful to just deeper ingrain those things so that I can, you know, like give people something substantial. Those are the type of things that I read about consistently. And there's probably like a lot of different things. Oh, you'd also ask about like how I read. Bro, like I feel like I didn't learn how to read until I got to grad school. Like funny thing is I've loved reading my whole life as well. But I had always called myself like a slow reader. I had always struggled one way or the other. I feel like as far as going even back to the SAT, like, and classes that I took in middle school, elementary school, like English was always my worst subject. And coming into grad school, one of the things that, I mean, I told you, bro, like I had to read so much to be able to like actually learn and understand things. So my advisor, he used to cook me. He'd be like, bro, you're taking too long to do X, Y, and Z. Bro, he's black, so it's chill.
Okay.
It's like chill, low key, but he would cook me, bro. He'd be like, you're taking too long. So I just had to up my game. And one of the things that I learned is like how to read efficiently. Won't get too deep into it here, but like I found that I personally practice this thing called sub-vocalization, where I would essentially like internally mouth every word that I was reading. And it's like, in that way, you're restricted to reading one word at a time. But I'm sure like you've probably saw this with the SAT stuff as well. Like the way that they train you to read efficiently is to like not vocalize things, to chunk them.
In blocks,
Chunk them in blocks, 2 to 3 word blocks on multiple different parts, and just read them with your eyes essentially, and allow your brain to just process that information as it's going. So that personally has helped me like up my reading speed exponentially. Up the reading that I'm able to do. And it's crazy because like I thought it would just translate to, you know, like scientific reading, academic reading, and all that stuff. But I mean, I told you I was getting into Nigerian literature. Bro, in the month of January, I read 5 books in 4 weeks. Those are numbers I've never put up before. Numbers that I've never put up, bro.
This is like paperback too. Like it's not like Kindle or anything. So just like, dang, it's like moving.
So I mean, it translates everywhere. It translates everywhere, and that's one of the things that I've loved about the PhD process. Like, while it is a process of becoming an expert, I mean, for me, really, like it's just a process of not content, but knowledge generation. So while I think a lot of people actually focus on that expertise portion, like, you know, I'm going to become an expert on this so that I can contribute to X, Y, and Z. For me, it's like, how do I just equip myself the best to be able to address any issue, to be able to know how to become an expert in any space that I need to. So shout out PhD, shout out grad school, shout out just bettering yourself through education.
And I don't know, something that you mentioned that stuck out from that is like the fact that the work is working on you more than you're working on it. It's like I forgot a conversation I'd had recently with an astrophysicist from let me not say the company, but but basically they're talking about how one of the biggest perks of the people that they get to work with is that it's not just like, oh, this person is super smart because they know a lot about this field or whatever, but it's about the person they have become on the pursuit of that knowledge, and like as a result of having gone down that path, they've changed not just from like, okay, I have this much of a textbook in my like memory, but also like I'm the type of person who can like chew through that much information and like
Yeah.
store it and then apply it.
Yeah. Bro, it's been a beautiful process for me, honestly. Like it's been a beautiful process. Like the PhD is hard.
Yeah. Understatement.
Understatement, bro. Understatement. Like it's hard. And it would be one thing if it was hard and I wasn't seeing any of the benefits.
Okay.
But bro, just like even 3 years into this thing, like I have transformed deeply in the way, in the way that I address issues, the way that I problem solve, the way that I project manage. Like it's been worth it. It's been worth it. It's been worth the work that it's put me through, bro. And I'm excited for like what's to come afterwards.
Yeah. I'm also curious, like you mentioned that like, okay, saying it's hard is an understatement, but I'm wondering like when it does get hard or like you're in one of those rough patches, like what is going through your head and or like how do you get yourself out of those? Or how do you get yourself to keep going even though maybe you're still like it's not gonna go away, but we just gonna keep moving though.
Sheesh, bro. I mean, I think that's a really good question. It's like it's very reminiscent of like Quals as well, like what I just went through, bro. Because like, it's really funny. The MechE Quals, like people from other departments, other graduate departments will literally say, "I'm glad that I'm not in MechE because of the Quals that y'all have to take." And even within the department, there's so much anxiety around it. Like people are just like, it's bad. It's bad. People are like freaking out. Like one of the things that they say is the worst part about taking Quals is the people around you. Everybody else.
Why so?
Because it's one thing to be going through a difficult process. It's another thing to have people that are really anxious around you. Like you can imagine like exams.
Yeah.
When you go into an exam and there's always that space where like people are standing outside the exam room and it's like 5 minutes before the exam and they're like, bro, like, did you study this, that, and the third? Or like, have you memorized this, that thing, and this, and it's just like,
oh, now my stomach, like, you passing it all to me like, damn, I might be cooked. Wait.
Yeah. So it's like, it's that thing where you might come into the exam like, all right, like I've done the work, I'm confident in my skills, I know what I need to do to execute, but just like other people's voices might give you a level of anxiety that you might not have had otherwise.
Yeah.
So the way personally that I get through that is for me like my faith. I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, so I was just like, you know what, I truly trust and believe that God has a plan and a purpose for my life. And you know, I believe that he put me here for a reason, that he brought me here to MIT, to MechE, to the Quals for a reason, and that one of two things will happen. One, he's not going to let me down. My life is going to be good regardless. So like, even one thing that I came to terms with, that I've come to terms with throughout this entire process is like, bro, like even if I didn't pass Quals, even if I don't finish my degree on the timeline that I want to, like, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be set because ultimately, like, I'm just looking to have a good impact on people.
Yeah.
And whether or not I get the qualifications that I think that I need, I know that God's got me and that he's going to position me to be able to have the impact regardless. Like I'm going to be good on the other side. So I don't have to worry too much about like what happens in the process. If I had to retake Quals again, you know, so what if my timeline takes a little bit longer? Like it's just going to be a ramp up to what I'm doing on the back end.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a ramp up to having the impact that I want to through society, through, you know, injustice, all these different things. Like I'm just equipping myself better to be able to, it's just like my training arc for real.
Yeah, literally.
It's just my training arc. Bruh. So if it needs to go a little bit longer, so be it. Like, what's the point of rushing the process if I come out half baked on the other side? So I think for me, like, generally, like, I kind of put most things in my life in perspective of like my relationship with God, knowing that he's got me, knowing that ultimately, like, if I'm looking to serve his purposes to, I mean, because really it just boils down to loving God and loving people. If I'm looking to love people, bro, like I can't go wrong. I can't go wrong. And if I like make that the center of, I mean, really everything that I try to do in life, love people well, then it's like, it doesn't, the trajectory, like the pathway to getting there doesn't matter because I can accomplish that at every step along the way. Right. And even if I don't get to where I want to be, I'll still be, no matter what.
I will have like made tremendous progress and like impact.
Exactly. And it's like, even when you go back, I mean, you know, I, again, like speaking as a perfect person of privilege who's getting a PhD at MIT, like I'm able to do it in a certain capacity, but that dials down to anybody, bro. Like anybody can work with that framework. Like if I just love people and love God, like I'll be good. That's why people, you know, who are in a completely different position than me, who are getting killed for their faith, who are in, you know, developing nations and don't have all the resources that I have. That's why they're able to walk day by day with a joy that is unbreakable because they know that they're ultimately living for a greater purpose and a greater plan.
Yes, sir. And I don't know, something else that had stuck out to me was like, I had saved in my mind is like, oh, that unshakable confidence of like, regardless of the outcome, even if it is quote unquote negative, I know that I'm gonna be okay. And I think that being like the definition of confidence is like really important as opposed to like some people I think get caught up in like, if the outcome goes good, then I'll be okay. And then if it doesn't, then that says like something negative or poor about my character or like composition.
Yeah. About who I am and what I, you know, all these different things. Yeah, bro. Yeah. I would also add, just on the practical side, like physically, emotionally taking care of myself during this season. Like,
what did that look like? I guess like, are you like exercising? And if so, like, what do your like routines look like?
So exercise wise, so that's a funny story because like when I was in high school, when I was younger rather, like it was always a goal of mine to like stay in shape and stay healthy. When I did my first year of high school, freshman year, I worked out every single day. But since then I haven't been consistent in the gym. So I built up a lot of muscle mass and like whether it was sports, whether it was academics, like I just haven't been able to maintain that sort of consistency. So right now, what I've come to terms with is okay, like if I can't work out the way that I want to, I'm gonna make sure my diet is in check. Gotcha. So I'm like super strict about 95% of my meals, to the point where like I'm basically a vegetarian, because I won't get too much into it, but like from my research, I found that that's like the optimal diet for us. Eating primarily plant protein, veggies, all that stuff, your whole grains, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that's not to, I say primarily because I actually do eat like chicken and beef and all that stuff. Yeah. Like I just treat it as a treat because I've found like the consistency at which we eat meat in like these developed nations for real is a little bit too high. So, you know, I'm very serious about my diet. I try to live an active lifestyle. So like biking, walking, taking the steps, you know, all those different things, skateboarding around.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Like just trying to stay in shape with the little things, even if I can't get it in with the, you know, like going to the gym as consistently as I would like to. And then emotionally, like, bro, just taking care of myself in a couple different ways. Like one is making sure that at the end of every day, like I've got time for myself. So, you know, like when I get home, most days, like after dinner, I don't work. So I don't work past like 7 p.m. for real. Like I've scheduled my days so that, you know, I know I'm a morning person personally. So I try to get up early and then, you know, work until 7, eat. And then when I get home, I'm just like chilling. Whether that's just reading for the rest of the night, whether that is, you know, like talking to folks, just on low stuff. I try to stay away from work unless like I absolutely have to. Yeah. And if I have to, I would rather wake up earlier in the morning. Exactly. Than like be up late at night, just tweaking on stuff. Um, I would say like those are some of the primary things that like physically, emotionally, of course, spiritually, that I invest my time in to make sure that I'm straight.
Yeah. I was curious, like, I'm wondering, I guess, about like the development, how those like came to be over time. I was wondering, like,
Mm.
was your sleep schedule as, I guess, regular during like undergrad too, or did it like happen during grad school?
So for me, that's a good question. It like I'll say generally I was pretty serious about my
Uh,
sleep schedule. Um, and about like my habits in general. So
mhm,
like, waking up on time, going to sleep on time. Um, but that fluctuated from
mhm.
season to season. Like if I had a piece that due the next day that wasn't done, like bro, I would be up grinding for it.
Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, like I tried to stay on top of things. Like I found for me at least,
Mhm.
like I don't know how other people feel about this, but I know like if my body isn't straight, like if I'm not feeling well physically, like it just carries into the rest of my work and it
Yeah.
makes everything all the more harder. Um, so I try to be like very intentional about my sleep generally. And like another thing for me is like I kind of struggle with like sleep insomnia.
Mm.
Um, or they call it sleep maintenance insomnia, which is basically like it's hard for me to stay asleep once I do get to sleep. So like I might just sleep for 5 hours a night unless like my sleep routine is like on
On
point.
point. Yeah.
So that's another reason why like I started struggling with that like my freshman year of college.
Mhm.
So at that point I was like, yeah, I gotta lock
Lock
in.
in.
I gotta lock in. Yeah. So I mean like it again like it varies. Like I remember there was this one point at my senior year
Yeah.
where I was applying for like the fellowships and all that stuff that at grad schools, blah blah blah. Like I was just busy. Busy
Yeah.
as I don't know what. And like I'd also just gone through a breakup. And I
Sheesh.
was like, low key, let me be on my like 5 a.m. waking up at
Super
five
locked in.
time, super locked in, bro.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a productive season where I was like, I think I was in bed by like I was in bed by like 10 and then up by 5 on a daily basis,
Mm.
hitting that grind. And then it's like in different seasons, like recently I've been a little lax,
Mhm.
changing my sleep schedule based on like also, like the different things that I've got going on. So like I'm a GRA. So like I'm a GRA and I'm like involved with a lot of stuff on campus and people do not operate on the same like
At
early morning
all, bro.
time.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like my stuff like it runs late, which means that I wake up late. So yeah, so on and so forth. Like I try to still maintain the sleep schedule in the best way that I can.
Yeah, bro. And I'm gonna say like a part of the reason why I had originally like thought to ask that question is because like
Mm,
maintaining that sort of sleep schedule, especially at MIT, requires the
yeah.
sacrifice
Yeah.
one of just like events and stuff, but also like for me personally, what I've been experiencing is like social interactions of like
Absolutely.
a lot of that like bonding time happens at like 2 a.m. with the
Absolutely.
homies, and it's like, bro,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna cook myself if I stay up, but if I choose
Yeah.
not to, like I think like this is I
Yeah.
guess just me personally like junior fall, like I think I
Mm,
chose my sleep, and then it's just like
mm.
I'm like, damn, bro, I'm low key
Reset.
depressed. I ain't talked to nobody all day
Yeah.
because it's like I woke up at 5, everybody's still sleeping,
Yeah.
da, da, da,
Yeah.
and it's like, all right, I'm knocking out at like 9 or 10 or something like
Yeah.
that, and it's
Yeah.
like they just hit their stride.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. I can't lie. I feel like I relate to that heavily. Like I feel like I made a lot of sacrifices in
Mm,
undergrad. Um, I made a lot of sacrifices in undergrad to like be able to get here. I
yeah,
think like
I guess. Would you mind sharing like what some of those sacrifices might have been? Because
yeah.
I remember like I think you've been mentioning this in a video, but like 4.0 GPA undergrad is in engineering is no easy feat,
Yeah.
and so I guess it's
Yeah.
like yeah, like how like what does that take?
Yeah. For me, it looks the other thing too is like it looks different from person to person. So
Uh,
my like process might be different from somebody else who's maybe got got it naturally. I'll say like has talent.
mm,
I'll say like I had to work really really hard to
mm,
like be able to get a 4.0. So for me it was like I feel like I missed out on many aspects of the college experience.
mm.
Um, of like those late night things. Like my roommates would hit me up and they'd be like, bro, like you trying to like go watch
Go
this
outside.
movie with folks, go
Yeah.
outside, go do, like whatever, whatever. And it would just be like, Nah, bro, like not tonight.
Yeah.
Not tonight. Um, not tonight. And in that sense, like maintaining sleep schedule, maintaining diet, maintaining, like being strict around the things that I did, um, it was hard. It was hard. But I think one thing that I learned the summer going into my senior year,
Yeah.
basically like I'm from Maryland originally. I went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County,
Yeah.
but I did 2 summers at MIT, summer research. And the second summer that I was coming back, like I was like, all right, I'm locking in for real, for real. Like I know this is going to be the most important summer towards getting me into the graduate schools that I want. So I was like, let's tee up. It's time. And one thing that my parents said to me that really stuck out to me was like, like work hard, play hard. And you hear that, I don't know, it becomes cliche to an extent, but I really took that to heart that summer. So I was like, as much as I was like, to the degree that I'm going to lock in and be intentional about my career and my future, I'm also going to be intentional to take time off and breathe and decompress. So like for me in that season, it looked like, yeah, like I would stay in labs late nights and work really hard. But Fridays, like I would come home and just chill with the homies until like 5 a.m. Or it would be like Saturdays for real. Because I knew like I had church the next day and I didn't care about being super alert for Sundays. And like generally I think something that ties into that as well is also just like I try to take one day off each week, just no work, no nothing. I call it, or in the Christian space, they call it like a Sabbath day. Um, and I just take that day off. Don't think about work. Don't think about nothing. And like that's the day when I'll like, if you want to see me, you'll see me on a Sunday. Like if you want to go out, we'll go out on a Sunday. If you want to chill, whatever, like I'm down for it that day. But otherwise, like I just need to be intentional to make sure I'm setting myself up to be able to accomplish everything that I want. Because I know personally, like I just can't do it if I'm haphazard about things. If I'm not serious about my work, like I'm not actually gonna get stuff done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now like I still operate with a similar mentality. Maybe not to the same degrees of like staying up till 5 a.m. Playing games and whatnot, but like just being intentional to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm being involved in community, that I'm spending time with the people that I care about. I might not be able to attend everything. I might not be able to hang out with everybody, but I've got people that are really close to my heart that I'm very intentional to spend time with.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminded me, I guess, like of, it's just a comment or statement. Like it's hard to maintain adult relationships, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like that word intentionality. Like you really gotta like, hey yo, bro, we gonna like I'm gonna put this in the GCal like it was like like a homework assignment, bro.
Literally, literally, bro. That's been it. Honestly, since I've gotten into undergrad and like grad school as well, like just intentionality in my relationships, intentionality in the rest in all parts of my life, for real, for real. Yeah.
Real as hell. Something like, again, the entrance is gonna be kind of weird, but it touches on like you'd mentioned like, oh, having the breakup is in my head, but then also like intentionality and like being able to set myself up for the life that I want and like not being haphazard. And then the other question, which I think encompasses a part of that, is like, when you think of the word successful, what does that look like? And then I guess how does like relationships play into that as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, like I think that I have learned. I'll zoom out. One thing that I naturally struggle a lot with is working too hard. My dad has actually told me that like he's a workaholic. And growing up,
Do you feel like you get it from him?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I think for me, like one of the things that I struggled with, especially like in the early phases, I mean, of really like seeing where I wanted to be and seeing a lot of people who like we deem as successful, like
Mhm.
billionaires and whatnot, like
Yeah.
I would look at their lives and it's like, okay, you were able to achieve all this success, but you left your family behind.
Yeah. At what cost?
Literally. And I think for me, like when I got a little bit scared because I was like, okay, does being successful mean that you have to give up your family, like give up relationships? Is it at the expense of relationships? And I think I just realized like you just need to frame success differently, right?
Mhm.
Like they frame success as financial achievement, as this, that, and the third. But if you change your framework for what success looks like to actually include relationships and like, okay, I'm not just gonna be stacking up bands, like my family's going to know me. My family is
Yeah.
going to appreciate me. I'm going to have a legacy. I'm going to be an active member in my community
Mhm.
and support the people around me. Like if that is part of your definition of success, then
Yeah.
you can achieve it. And I think that really reframed how I just operate and how I move. Like yes, a lot of the time that I spend is going to be, like towards the goals, towards all the things that we talked about,
Of course.
PhD, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But I'm also going to take intentional time to devote to my community, to being around people, to my friends, to checking in with people, to
Yeah.
hitting people up. Like, Quals was tricky. I can't lie. The past month was crazy. Low-key, the past like 4 months were kind of dicey. But
Yeah.
like generally, like I make it a point to be involved with the community, to be around people, I mean, whether it's just hanging out with folks, whether it is giving back in the ways that I can, showing up in spaces that might not necessarily just be for me, but like to be for others. Um, I value that a lot. So
Absolutely.
I would say my definition of success, yes, is having an impact. Yes, personally, I just, with an impact, with creating value for people comes money as
Mhm.
well. I'm not going to chase the money, but I know it will come.
Yeah.
And relationships with people, going back to, being a Christian, like loving God and
Mhm.
loving people well, like that's at the center of it all. And if I have to stomp on people, if I have to push people away, if I have to earn something at the expense of relationships and at the expense of people, then it just doesn't fit in my definition of success.
Absolutely. And that's it. Oh, the fact that like it's gonna come back like like that strong confidence in it. It reminded me of a conversation I'd had with James Rousseau. He's the CEO of the Corelink Solution and Holy Culture Radio. And like a topic he had mentioned to me was like that concept of stewardship. And like
Mm.
this, and I think you touched on it a little bit earlier too, of
Mm.
like this
Yeah,
money isn't
yeah,
even mine. Like, okay, like
yeah,
it's gonna
yeah,
come as a byproduct of me
yeah,
continuing to do good in the world.
yeah,
And like another principle, I guess, like is that it grows the more that you continue to hold that mindset towards it. Of like
yeah,
when you try to
literally,
hold on to it, that's when you make the pie shrink. But when you give
yeah,
out, it ends up getting bigger and bigger.
yeah, literally. The way that we say it sometimes is like if
Mm.
if it can get through you, it can get to you.
Mm.
So if the resources can get through you to impact different folks,
Mm-hmm.
to impact different communities, to impact those around you,
Mm-hmm.
it'll get to you. You won't have to worry about making it, because for real, like you're just worried about distributing it. And
Yeah.
it's like in that process, like you're thinking about, okay, like, I mean, it ties into everything really. Like when your focus is not the money itself, it's like, okay, what am I trying to do? What impact am I going to have?
Yeah.
That it gives you a stronger drive. It
Mm-hmm.
gives you a stronger drive, and I would even say like a better connection to what you're trying to produce, what you're trying to earn, because it's not for you.
Yeah.
You're not trying to hold on to it. You're like selflessly trying to give it away, trying to use it for others. So, that like people can also read that from a
You
mile
can
away.
sense, you can smell it,
Literally,
bro.
literally, you can see it on people. Um, and that just changes the way that folks even interact with you in a business sense as
Yeah.
well. And Yeah, I mean, like the type of impact you're able to have, the type of work that you're able to do, the type of fulfillment that you get
Mm,
from the work that you're trying to do, I like it impacts everything.
mm. And like speaking of impacting everything, I'm thinking of what you'd mentioned earlier about like not just stewarding, I guess, like resources or money, but you mentioned
Mhm.
like influence as well, and
Yeah,
like that same
absolutely.
like I don't know, you see the way broadly, you see it in all things, but I'm like, even from like the smallest thing like basketball, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
if you're the type of player that passes the ball, more likely than not, they're gonna pass it back to you,
Literally,
gang. And
literally.
it's like another bar is like you can give up a good shot for a great shot, right? So
Hey,
it's like you might be at the three, sure, but if you pass the homie
yeah,
and then they collapse over there, you go over there, now you wide open.
literally,
Split
bro.
at, bro. Oh my like,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. This is like my like per episode hippie rant. I'm like, bro, if everybody just like loved each other more,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
look, okay, yeah. I think I'm gonna give my take on it, and like the general question is, I think, like, what is one of the biggest issues you see in the world, and or like, if you could change like
Mm,
one thing, what would it be? And for me, I really think like if I could just like ratchet up everybody's level of empathy by 10%,
mm,
there would be obviously it wouldn't all go away, but I feel like
yeah,
that it would have like tremendous like cataclysmic impacts on like the world,
yeah.
just because like if you really like an analogy I had is like you don't have to tell your right hand to not like hurt your left hand for resources because it
Mm,
hurts when it you hurt. Like we
yeah,
are like it's just it's so like deeply ingrained that we are one. Like if I'm starving, I'm not gonna start eating my fingers because like hey bro, this is still me.
yeah,
But I feel like not to throw shots on the U.S., but you feel me? It's low key
yeah,
wicked. Like it feels like
yeah.
okay, there is whatever pressures from the external world, and it's like we're eating our fingers, and or
Mm,
like the people that help keep this country running, we're like throwing them in cages and stuff like that, talking about you're not a full citizen or you
yeah.
don't you look like. I'm not gonna lie, that shit blows me to this day. Like he said he looks like an immigrant, like, but
It's crazy,
yeah,
bro.
and I feel it's like if it was like more because I don't know, like to that point of like having the empathy. I try in my head to be like, there's some reason or like some justification in the head of somebody who signs up for ICE as to why what they're doing is correct. And it's like
Mm.
even though I might disagree, like trying to like, and I think like the reason why is like that's not my they don't I'm not I don't feel connected to that person. That they're not
Yeah,
my family. They're not related to me, etc., etc. And so
yeah,
therefore you can put up that barrier and I guess enforce that imperative,
yeah,
but it's like if you like that's your grandma that you about to throw in that van gang, you wouldn't do it.
yeah. No, bro. I agree 100%. I agree. I mean, like honestly, I think it comes down to empathy as well.
Mm,
Like that's been the center line of what we've been talking about, like loving people well. Um, I believe that. I mean, a little bit of a tangent, but like if you one of the I feel like the best things that my like faith has done for me is
mm-hmm.
like truly having like a relationship with God has empowered me by the love that I'm receiving from like an unconditional source
Mm-hmm.
has enabled me to love people better
Mm-hmm.
um, in my day-to-day life. And I think like I completely second what you're saying. Like if people just increase in empathy, like that would change a lot of what we see. Like, I mean, even like going to the example that you were mentioning, bro, with like ICE and I mean, a lot of injustice that we see, it just boils down to people being focused on themselves,
Yeah.
looking inwards and saying like, I want to make sure that me and mines are good. When in reality, it's like if we return to that like a village mentality, if we
Yeah.
return to a mentality where it's like if we're all like if one of us is up, all of us are up.
Mm.
Or rather, like how do I make sure that as a village, as a collective, like we are helping each other to be able to grow collectively, to be able to I mean, it even goes to the earth as well, like
Mm-hmm.
stewarding the earth as opposed to
Yeah.
just extracting from it. But, with people, the same thing goes to people. Like, how do we steward relationships? How do we steward humanity
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to seeing folks as those to be extracted from and those to be partnered with? I
Yeah.
think that that's one of the biggest problems that we see today, and that's one of the reasons why like there's so much violence today, why there's so much hate and hardship, because people aren't focused on loving each other. Even those that I mean, I can fire shots at the Christian space because a lot of folks will claim it but won't actually love other folks. A lot of folks will use it as like a political weapon.
Yeah.
And I mean, just spew hate from their lips, bro. Whether it is, I mean, against all types of community, whether it's like against immigrants, whether it's against the LGBTQ community, whether it's against like so on and so forth, right? Like it just comes down to love at the end of the day. It just comes down to love. And when we realize that we are more similar, we are all more similar than we are different, you know, like we would be able to accomplish a lot more.
Absolutely.
We would be able to accomplish a lot more.
To that point about like we're much more similar than different, it's reminding me of a book I'd read. I think it's The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. Specifically that it's the second pillar of acceptance. And more generally, I think of just like the way to get there is through understanding. Because like if you could see those similarities, like I think the book has a quote, something along the lines of like, you can never hate somebody if you truly understand them.
Bro.
And I feel like, bro, that's just such like, it's so like profoundly powerful.
Yeah. I try to operate with that. In a lot of, I mean, like really in everywhere that I go, and in the way that I see all things, because as much as I hate everything that we've talked about, all the injustices that we see today, to your point, right? Like if I were blindly hating them in opposition based on everything that they have done, that would blind me to certain aspects of this fight that I'm fighting. It would make me emotional. It would make me too emotional. Like let's just look at it as a fight analogy, right? Like if I'm emotional going through a fight, I'm gonna swing to hit the hardest as opposed to actually swinging to beat them or swinging tactically. Like I used to wrestle in high school, and I mean, wrestling is really just about finesse. Finesse and like taking your opponent down as opposed to like going at them the hardest that you can. And sometimes it requires you to be level-headed. Most times I would say it requires you to be level-headed to actually get the takedowns that you want and bring your opponent down. So for me, like when I look at a lot of the things that we see today, I try to understand their perspective. Not to the point that I agree or like I'm like what they're doing is cool, but like, okay, what is really behind? I mean, we were talking about
how did you get
how did you get there? How did you get there? Okay, like I see what you're doing. Okay, maybe it's like it comes back to what we were talking about, like wanting to make sure that you and yours are good. Okay, like a lot of these people feel like whether it is Black folks being up, whether it is immigrants coming to this country and looking for a better future, they feel like they're taking opportunities from them. Okay, oh, I see like how this is, okay. And for me, like that also ties in to some of the work that I'm looking to accomplish, because it's like, okay, like if I see that, if I can understand part of what you're doing is that you're scared. You're scared about not being well off. Okay, how do we let's dial it back to climate. Instead of just fighting a fight like we need to get rid of oil, there are folks who are fighting against us because they think that they're going to be jobless on the other side of this. Exactly. They've built everything around this. Okay, if that's what you're scared about, how do we make sure that we're creating a world where you're not left behind? Where it's not a lose-lose situation, but it's a win-win. So, I mean, you can bring that back to like everything that we're talking about. I mean, in some way, it's not a one-to-one example, but you know, like looking at things that we see today, like, okay, like where are they coming from? What are they ultimately like fighting against? What's that inner, that undisclosed thing that they're truly looking to to address.
Yeah.
And how do we, not just combat whatever it is they're trying to do, but how do we ultimately solve the problem?
Yeah,
How
the
do we
root
solve the
of
problem?
the
The root,
issue.
exactly. And at the end of the day, like, you're not going to be able to do that with everybody.
Yeah.
There are some folks who aren't going to be interested in those types of solutions. So, like, you can take that with what you want, but I think that it at least gets us at a good starting point in terms of, just not perpetuating cycles of violence in our world and in our society. Granted, there will be a time to fight. There will be a time to fight
No bad.
with a lot of these issues that we see. But how do we, going back to the wrestling example, how do we fight with finesse as opposed to just blindly swinging with all of our power?
Absolutely. Two things is, one, to that same analogy of just like going in level-headed, like, I don't know, it definitely made me think of, like, again, like going back, the sport I played was basketball. And so it's like, bro, you can be as mad as you want, but it don't matter. The ball not gonna go in. And like, and if anything, like, you gonna do all this extra stuff, like you're trying to go head down and like, oh, now you gotta charge.
Literally.
And then also you'd made like really good point, I think, about the root of the anger or aggression being fear.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, the core two decisions are really, are you making your actions out of love or out of fear?
Yeah.
I forgot where else I wanted to go with that, but that was just like, I feel like it needed to be said.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if folks just evaluated things from that space, like, bro, we would be in a completely different place. It's a powerful framework to work with.
And I guess like going to that sort of vibe, I was wondering like whether this is like scripture or just like a quote, like if you have words that you live by and or like refer to often.
I would say I don't. I I think I try to operate for most things with is scripture, because it helps me operate from a framework of love. So I would say just going back to what I've said most of this time, just loving God and loving people. Like, those are the two greatest commandments: to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, we've talked so much about the importance of loving people, right? And, like, operating from empathy and whatnot. And I think for me, like, loving God well, I mean, there's so many different dimensions of that, right? Like, loving God well allows me to love other people well. When you talk about loving your neighbor as yourself, I've got to make sure that I'm loving myself well. And my relationship with God makes sure that I operate correctly in terms of that. So, I mean, loving myself gets to things like how I'm loving myself physically, how I am taking care of myself physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and all those different areas that we talked about today. I think the best love that you can give to yourself is to take care of yourself, And I think that's the most important thing. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Gosh. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself.
That's a bar. And my bad, I got one more.
No, all good.
And it's just like, if you could talk to a 20, okay, my bad, damn. Yeah, if you could talk to a 20-year-old version of yourself,
okay,
what advice would you give to them?
There's so many things I would tell a 20-year version of myself. I think just piggybacking off of relationships, first and foremost. To love yourself well is to be in the right relationship and to be in a good relationship. in healthy relationships. I'm most directly thinking about like romantic relationships because those were some of the ones that messed me up. But also, just surrounding yourself with people that will build you up. Like people talk about, if you're around four dummies, you're going to be the fifth. So I think in terms of like just being intentional about your community, being intentional with who you spend your time with. And then on the flip side, going to career, I would say that it's okay to not have everything figured out. It's okay to change your mind. I think that one thing I stressed out about a lot when I was in undergrad was like, okay, I know I want to do this degree. Like I know, or rather like, yeah, like I know I want to do MechE, but like I'm not just gonna do this for the sake of doing this. Like I need to know my why. I need to have purpose behind this. Because I'm such a big person on purpose, like if I don't have purpose behind something, it just kills it. It just kills it for me. It makes it 10 times harder. So, I was locked in on like, okay, like what exactly am I going to use this degree for? What exactly am I going to do? And I think I stressed out about all the minute details when in reality it was like, okay, bro, like you might have a good idea, have a good sense of what you want to accomplish. And even if you're not like 100% bent on that, as long as you keep going and run that John like as far as you can, you'll figure it out. Like just keep talking to people, keep engaging with people whose perspectives you appreciate and admire, and you'll course correct as you keep going. It's not so important to have it all mapped out from day one. And for me, like that's where the faith component comes in. Like God's got me regardless. So I don't need to know exactly where I'm going to be because I know that he's going to carry me throughout it all and that I'll just keep loving people, loving myself all along the way. And because I'm not necessarily so hyper fixated on this end point, because I'm more so looking to become the type of person, to become a better person, to better myself in all these different ways and to grow and to love people along the way, it's like the success is in the journey as opposed to reaching some pinnacle, some mountaintop, and just being there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And with that, I just want to say like thank you so much for like taking the time to speak with me,
pleasure.
bro. I appreciate you.
Pleasure.
And then also like where people can like just one more time if you want to shout out like your
Yeah.
pages, like where people can find you
Yeah.
and or like see your work.
Yeah, I mean Tobi.phd, Tobi.phd. Those are my main socials. Be on the lookout. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn as well if y'all want to look me up there. But be on the lookout because I'm looking to continue posting the type of stuff that I do. Start talking more about a lot of this global work that I'm looking to achieve. I'm excited to, like be an educator. Be an educator in this space, be an impactor in this space, and continue to inspire people to make a change. So,
Yes, sir. And with that, that's another episode of the LearnWell Podcast concluded. Thank y'all so much for tuning in and catch y'all in the next one.